Because if we only want to look after our mind and we don't care what is happening outside to Mother Earth, who is actually feeding and supporting us, then not much will transform. Yeah. So instead of thinking that we are the masters of the universe or whatever, that to really see how dependent we are on Mother Earth. And with the plastic, I mean, everybody knows how harmful it is. Now they start to talk about microplastic, so that's a good way of not eating fish anymore because they have it inside. And, yeah, so, everything has some kind of effect. Okay? So I mean, same as with the karma, like everybody can make their own decision what you want to do. And this is just a suggestion. And it's a very pleasant mind that cares about something. Yeah. It's good for us when we start to be careful about this. The danger there is, what do you think could be the danger if you start doing that very consciously? Like, maybe you go shopping and then you bring your own plastic bags, or what they do in your flat. Of course, there's a small village and there's a small shop, but I thought it's very good. These containers where you have the fruits, the vegetables in. Yeah, you see what I mean? Okay, so they bring them back to the shop. And then in the shop, everything is in big boxes, not in those small things, but they are on a stack. So you take them, you fill into that box whatever you want. They weigh it as you go out, you go home, you empty the little plastic box, you bring it back. Yeah, it's a very, very good system instead of taking every time a new box. So if you go shopping, then you bring your own bags that you already have at home, like stacks. I saw you even have containers here, these round ones, for the plastic bags in Israel. So usually they are full everywhere. So these are little things that we can do. But the danger there is, as I said, if you start doing that and living like that, what do you think could be the danger? No danger?
Maybe judging others.
Yeah, exactly. If you start doing it and then you see others who are not doing it, you get very angry. And you start judging them, you get angry, you feel like, wow, look at me and all this. So then you have to be careful that this is not happening. Because what others do, that is their business, and what we do, that is our business. And that goes very well with the teachings of karma. Karma is to be used to like a mirror. What do I do with these teachings? We look at our own actions. It's not to be used as a window where we look out to see what others do. What others do, this is not their business. Again, it's so difficult to talk about these things, because then you think, well, if somebody harms somebody else, I could do something, but no, I should not judge, so I'm not doing anything. Don't go to that extreme. Buddhism is the middle way, so it's not black and white. It always very much depends on the situation. So of course, if you see somebody that is doing something harmful, and you think you can do something about the situation, then by all means do. But just not doing anything, or because you don't have the power or you don't have the skills, and just keeping to look at that, then you get angrier and angrier and angrier. Yeah. So not getting angry, it doesn't mean that you don't see that when something is not being done in the right way. Yeah, I'm sure you understand that. Yeah? But it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Very quickly our ego kind of feels very righteous, and for example, here as opposed to Yechiam, here it's worthwhile to pick up things from the ground when you see some plastic on the ground, because there's hardly anything, Here I cannot send you out with plastic bags instead of doing a silent meditation and say, instead of the meditation, go and pick up the garbage, because you would have to fight for the things, You would run if you see a piece of plastic lying on the ground. There might still be some around, because I talked to the two girls yesterday, and they said, last week we had 250 people with a lot of children. So there might still be some traces from them being left around. But when we came, you remember you came on the Tara retreat, and nothing, not one thing was on the ground. So it's nice or it's not nice? Huh? It's very nice, isn't it? So we can help them. We can contribute to that. So easy. When you see something, pick it up. Put it. So many bins around also. Put it in the bin. Okay. So then when we see, when we see that the climate gets warmer and warmer and warmer, and the earth gets more and more destroyed, then we can say, well, at least I'm doing my share, and more we cannot do. And also with the karma, we can really see. I mean, it's not that this happened just like this. Why is it happening? Because the causes are there. The causes are there for the climate to warm up. And if we want this to reverse, then we need to stop the causes, because otherwise nothing will happen. Us just wishing that it will be different, this is not going to be so. So then also in the rooms, when you leave, please make sure the lights are off. Air condition, I don't want to say anything, then everybody makes their own decision. But, does it really need to be on when you're not there? Some people say yes, because if it warms up too much, we come in, then it takes more electricity. I don't know, but anyway. Okay. Cups. Oh, cups, yeah. Cups, if you can, bring your own cup, because paper cups in a Buddhist group is not appropriate. Especially if you use a new cup, or for the Buddhists, not the Buddhist group. We're not responsible for you. The Buddhist group is not responsible for you. But as a spiritual practitioner, taking every time a new cup, it doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. It's paper, it's paper, but still, it has to come from somewhere. At least it's not plastic. So if you could bring your own cup, that would be really good. You think that would be possible? See, in the teachings in Dharamsala, when I started to be in Dharamsala in the 1990s, in the breaks there's always tea, right? So then if you wouldn't have your own cup, then there's no tea, and that's it. So you learn very quickly to bring your own cup if you want tea. But then with Westerners increasing, and they're not knowing, and with the plastic cups and all this, now they distribute plastic cups, or these styropor kind of white things, like these cups. And then people don't bring their own cups anymore, and then at the end there's all this garbage. So and they think they're modern, because they didn't have it before. They're very proud of their cups that they distribute. Who has been to the teachings of His Holiness lately? How is it with the cups? They distribute them, or they stop distributing them? No cups? Maybe they stopped again, I don't know. Because I haven't been for 4 or 5 years. So this is it. So thank you, Shoshana, I forgot. So that would be a good thing. Also. Little things. Yeah. Okay. So maybe we do just a silent meditation a little bit, just to sit. Because also karma, ethical conduct, if you don't have awareness, you will not see that your conduct is not ethical. You will not be able to change anything in your habits if you don't have the awareness to see. And awareness, unfortunately, is something that needs to be trained. Awareness, like being present and seeing what is going on. So the word mindfulness, maybe David told you this morning, I don't know, the word mindfulness, sati, means memory. Okay? So, of course, when you sit in formal meditation, the memory, that means you remember your object. And you remember it in a way very deeply, so that you don't forget about it. You don't have to, you don't have to bring back the mind again. This is what we are training, this kind of memory. And this kind of memory, we have the ability to do that, because if you decide in the morning to go to a shop, you don't need to, on the way to the shop, you don't need to tell yourself, oh, I'm going to the shop, I'm going to the shop, I'm going to the shop, I'm going to the shop. The sati, the memory of going to the shop is there. Why? Because there's a lot of attachment. Yeah? Because we know if I'm not going to the shop, there's nothing at home to eat or something like that. So if you meet me on the way, maybe, yeah, you meet me on the way, we go and have a cup of coffee, but the memory that you want to go to the shop is still there, so you don't need to bring it back once we finish the coffee. What is it that I wanted to do? Maybe when we're old, we become like this, that we forget what we wanted to do. But, you know, the more attachment is there, the more you remember, the more energy you give to that thing that you want to do, the easier it will become. So this is like mindfulness or sati, like the memory of what you're doing. So when you sit down to meditate, you remember what you want to do. And this is my object that I'm training with, which very often is the breath. But then you have something else which is called awareness, or it's called introspection, or it's called the spy, or it's called, I don't know if they have any other words. Awareness, I think it's a good thing. It's the awareness or the wisdom to see what is going on. Yeah? So in your meditation, when you do shamatha, you don't need to correct anything. But all of this, what we train on the cushion, this is afterwards to be taken out. So when you have mindfulness and you see what's going on in the mind, with the awareness, it comes and it corrects if it needs to be corrected. If you see that you have like anger or there's a lot of desire, and they usually call this inappropriate attention. That then, instead of having the attention going to the shop, we get attached to something different, or we want something different, and then we stay there. So the inappropriate attention would be being outside instead of inside. Do you understand what I mean? When we have desire, when we have anger, it is very difficult to take the mind away from the object of attention, which is the object of desire or the object of aversion. It's very difficult. You really need effort. So first you need to see that you're not inside, that you are there. And then you bring it inside. And then you have a good chance that your negative emotion will, not carry on for that much longer. Okay? This is why we sit. This is why we train that. Not for you to have peace and calm and quiet and, it can happen. It can really happen. That when the mind starts to become really calm, all of a sudden you don't feel your body anymore, the body becomes very flexible, the mind all of a sudden becomes very spacious, and it feels very good. That's true, but that's not the purpose. That's just a side effect. So don't look for it, because if you look for it, then you will give up very, very quickly if you are new in this. Yeah? And also, if you look for it and then it doesn't happen, then you get disappointed. And you think that you're doing something wrong. Yeah? So the purpose of doing this is to know what is going on in your mind and in what mind state you are at the moment, and then if you need to correct, you correct. You can correct with thoughts, antidotes, yeah? You can correct, for example, by looking at the other perspective, looking at the other side. You see what I mean? Like when I'm angry at somebody, instead of being, he did this and this and this and this, to go there and look, yeah, but what did I do, for example? How would that person feel now? Yeah, like this. Changing perspective, changing sides, so that also corrects. Or we can correct by thinking about the nature of the emotion, that it doesn't exist from its own side, by just looking at it and letting go of the object that created the emotion, and we just look at the emotion without manipulating anything at all, and it dissolves It dissolves in its own nature as being not existing from its own side. But for that you need a lot of attention to be able to do that. You need a lot of strength to stay inside. But that's the most radical one. That's the best one. Yeah? But actually the other two steps, they usually come before, so that you already calm down a little bit, so then it's not so difficult for the emotion to dissolve. When I say the emotion dissolves, it doesn't mean it never comes back. But that one, which was created by that karmic imprint, at that moment is gone. And you haven't created new seeds, new imprints. Yeah? And then when we look at that system or that method, then the fifth step would be, or what you can also do, you actually put yourself in situations that provoke these emotions. That's for people who are advanced, and for people who see that the more I train these other three steps before, or actually the first one is to pause and to look, the more I train these other four steps before, the better I get at it. Because in order to be able to deal with these things in a skillful way, we need opportunity to train. Yeah? So this is what you do with your negative emotions. You're not suppressing them, you are not living them out, you're studying them. And this is what the awareness is for, not to study outside, but to study yourself, to know your own mind. And then with time also to know this would trigger it. And you see, again, the trigger is not only outside. The trigger very much is when I don't feel well, then whatever happens there, even the trigger seems to be very small. When I'm in a good state, there's nothing that gets triggered. Yeah? So it's not the thing outside, it's my state of mind. So we don't have any choice but to look after our state of mind if we want to be happy. Otherwise you can go up on top of the highest mountain and nobody is there, but you still don't feel well and peaceful and okay, Even if you lost all the memories from what happened before, you would still have moments of not feeling well, because why? We would feel terribly bored, yeah? Unless you're a really good meditator and then you have perfect conditions. But then again, the mind would start to churn and would start to get agitated and all this. And if you do longer retreats alone, and always on the same cushion, you notice that, You have moments your mind is like totally open and you go like, oh, Lord, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Yeah, you really think like, I'm never going to come out of here until I'm enlightened. Like the Buddha who said, I'm not getting up from this seat until I found what the antidote to the suffering is. And he stayed put the whole night. Only one night he had to do. But he had many, many lifetimes where he practiced before. Okay? How did I get to this one, to the Buddha now? To be determined, huh?
The changing of the...
Yeah, exactly. On your cushion, thank you. So you're always, the conditions outside are always the same. And if you do retreat at Tushita, even the food is always the same. Used to be. I don't know how it is now. But it's always the same. It's rice, dal, veg for lunch, it's stupa and a piece of bread in the evening. Every day. So you don't need to, I wonder what will be for lunch. It's a total waste of time because you know. And actually that's a good example. When you know, you calm down. You don't need to go there. So this is why meditation is for the sake of knowing. Yeah? Knowing what? Knowing our mind, knowing that we want to be happy and we don't want to suffer. We have this something that's always pulling us or pushing us, knowing that. Then knowing what will bring happiness and what will bring suffering, and finally knowing the nature of reality. Something happening up there? No. Object of attention, appropriate. or inappropriate. For me, when I heard this for the first time, because I never kind of knew that the mind cannot calm down if I stay out there with the object. It's like pouring fuel on the fire and you want the fire to stop. Because as long as I look at the object with anger, it appears really unpleasant, it's really horrible, and then my anger increases. And the more the anger increases, the more horrible the person becomes, or the more heavy the situation that has happened, who knows when, becomes. So for me, this whole thing about appropriate and inappropriate attention, it was very, very helpful to hear that this is one of the main sources, not the cause, for our negative emotions. The cause is a moment of anger before, that we created ourselves. But the conditions to keep it up and to keep it going is like having contact with people who have the same negative views and blah, 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 they confirm what anger is good and you should do that. And filling ourselves also with information that does enhance it, and then especially this inappropriate attention, not to come inside. Yeah? So we'll just do maybe 15 minutes, because here we have the condition, so it's a shame just me blah blah blah, you listening and not taking the opportunity maybe. It's good to train short periods. The length of the period of training doesn't really matter so much. And I don't know if somebody kind of plays an instrument in a really good way. Yeah, so it's better, I think it's better to do whenever you can short periods of training than waiting for that's the official time. So I do long, but then you get bored and all this. So whenever you can, you do. So if you like to play, how many of you play an instrument? Wow. Okay, so we don't have skiers, but we have musicians. So remember when you were not able to play the instrument at the beginning, whatever came out of the guitar or the flute or the piano or whatever, it wasn't really pleasant, but the interest, the attachment, wanting to know how to play it made you go to the instrument with a lot of joy, yeah? Even though you were not good at it. Can you remember? Or did somebody have to force you? There are parents who force their kids. I mean, it's terrible for these children, Oh, there they really have to make these periods from then to 10, you train. Yeah, but if you have joy in it, you go voluntarily and you learn much quicker. So in order to have joy in your meditation, which shouldn't then become attachment, it's also good from time to time to see the advantages of it. The advantage of training a lot in just sitting every day, I'm talking about every day here, yeah? Even if it's just 10 or 20 minutes, but really every day. So the advantage of that is you will have some kind of result after a while. Yeah, that you will be more open and more calm. You can deal with life situations better and all this. You will have moments of bliss. And the big advantage is you are not so, you don't need to find happiness so much anymore in food and drink and